What is up, everybody? Keith, aka Gator Guy 231, here to break down the WNBA season. Yes, we have got one coming up with my guy at Dub Lewis, Will Lewis. How's it going, Will?
Gator, what's good, man? We're talking about it before. Super excited to finally be on the screen with you, not sending texts back and forth like we've been doing for the last couple of years. So it's good to be here. I'm excited.
And it's excited to be able to bring a lot of video content to our subscribers and a lot of y'all watching this season. Will is going to be in charge of all our WNBA with my soccer duty very much in swing. But I'll tell you what, Will has been carrying me for 2 seasons in WNBA to some tons of success. Well, it's printing time, baby. It is printing time.
It's always printing time. July 25th, less than 2 weeks out. Cannot wait.
I seriously can't either. It's going to be a great season. We have a ton of options for you all to subscribe. So Will's going to be doing short videos daily, breaking down the slate. Some of them will be public, some will be private. But if you want to make sure that you have all of those, plus core plays, plus premium chat for Classic, Showdown, every slate on DraftKings and FanDuel, make sure you join. There'll be a link at the bottom. Will guide you guys to some big-time nights this season. Anything you want to add before we get into the action, Will?
Yeah, I would just add, with all the sports that are going to be going on here in a couple of weeks, the video content that we're going to be providing, as well as the course and actual analysis with me just dedicated to WNBA, it's going to be far and above what you're going to find elsewhere. And I'm hoping to lead you guys to some big time wins this year. I'm excited. I can't wait.
Yeah. And Will said, I want to lead you guys to the wins. I just want to lead y'all to second, because Will has a thing in WNBA that he really enjoys the takedown. And I think you had like 7 last year, something like that.
We had a lot of takedowns last year, several big GPP ones in the big tournaments, and then a lot of big single entry ones, which it's always nice kind of rubbing in the face of some of the other guys in the industry.
Well, it's WNBA season, so that is what it's about. So that's right. I want to get right into it. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing 2 breakdowns in 2 separate parts. We're going to be doing Eastern Conference today. Western Conference will be released later this week. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. We plan to talk about some rookies, but let's do that as we get to the games. So I want to start off with the consensus number 1 team in the East, which is the Washington Mystics. Why don't you give me, some key adds and key departures?
Yeah, so as far as who they're missing from last year, pretty much their entire backcourt's gone. Losing Tasha Cloud, Christy Tolliver, Shatori Walker-Kimbrough. So they're already starting day one without, their 3 primary guards from last year. Then, of course, LaToya Sanders won't play as well. And then you're also, you're waiting on the status of Deladon, which will be interesting. She's waiting the results, see if she can play in Bradenton because of the virus. So that, that is obviously from the championship team. They're already losing 4 key players, and then the possibility of Deladon's another a big loss. As far as who's
let's be real. You're even underdoing that. Elena Deladon is like potentially the best player in the WNBA.
Correct.
What's the health condition that she's worried about?
She had Lyme disease.
Okay, I want to make sure it's right.
Yeah.
But, and here's the thing I want to just break down when we're going to a lot of these players, and just so we don't see any comments, these girls don't make nearly the amount. This is not the NBA. They're not coming down for $10 million.
Oh, sure. They're coming down for, 150K to risk possibly their life. So, yeah, it makes plenty of sense why she wouldn't play.
And a lot of them make more money overseas. So once, this kind of passes, they want to make sure that they're ready for their European teams, or, I think some are in China or Russia. There's other leagues that pay them more than the WNBA. So I think it's really important to bring up that, some of these girls that decided to make the decision to not come down, it's not only for health, but it could also just be financially, it just doesn't make sense for the risk.
Oh, yeah. And with her too, obviously, aside from DFS, she was 20-8 last year. She is the best player in the league. So obviously not playing be a big blow for them. As far as also waiting, so that as far as that's who's gone, who they're bringing in this year, they're bringing in Team Charles, which is a big move in free agency from the Liberty. So, but her and Deladon, I think, are both not with the team yet. They're both waiting to hear from the league on if they're going to be cleared to play. So Charles in the same boat as that. As far as, the backcourt, they lose those 3 girls. So they bring Leilani Mitchell from Phoenix, Essence Carson from Phoenix. So those will be kind of 2 key adds to the backcourt, and then bringing over Elena Coates as their other kind of off-season move.
Elena Coach, the unfulfilled promise of
the journey woman. She's bounced around everywhere. So maybe she finds a place that sticks. And Della and Charles can't play, but I know she can't catch a break, can she?
I've lost enough money trying to chase that talent.
That's right. That $3,000 play we've been trying to play for the last 3
mostly
or 4
showdown.
Years. Never works. That's right. Mostly showdown.
Talk about any players to watch in kind of situation.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. We'll start in the backcourt. I think Ariel Atkins is gonna be someone that, with Tolliver, with Cloud, with Gaunt, just some stability, someone that's been there. I guess it's their second or third year out of Texas now, so she should take a big jump, I would think. With some of those girls gone, I think you're gonna have some value early on with Leilani Mitchell, Essence Carson. They've both been, very solid players, and they're set in Phoenix, and they'll have more opportunity this year than they've had in the past with January and Bonner and Griner down in Phoenix. So they should have some real opportunity, I think, especially early on, to pay off at their prices until they figure out who that backcourt's going to be. And then, I think obviously the premier player to watch, I think at this point, with no Sanders, with Deladon, with Charles questionable, I mean, it's going to be Emma Meeseman. I mean, she could easily step into that 2010 5 type numbers at least if Charles first.
Hold on. Oh, we cut out there for a second. Can you hear?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, start back. Just talk about Meeseman real quick, and then I'll cut that.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd say the premier player to watch, at least at this point, with no Latoya Sanders, with Deladon, Charles, both very iffy on if they're going to make it down to with the team, is going to be Emma Meeseman. I think, in the past, whenever Sanders has been out, whenever Deladon's been out, she's a player that has stepped up and been an easy 35, 40-point fantasy contributor. So if you have no Sanders and no Deladon or Charles, I mean, she's going to be a 20, 10, 5 at least type player this season. So, I mean, she would be the stud, and she does everything. I mean, she's the Euro ball. She's the pick and roll assist. Like, she contributes all across the board. So, I mean, she would easily be a top 3, top 5 fantasy player across the league if all 3 of those girls were to miss. So she could very well be the top player.
She might be the WNBA DFS
very
player.
well.
Just
very well could be the top player.
I think you hit on everybody. All I wanted to mention was Atkins at the end of last season. We really saw already making those leaps. So, really potentially taking on, again, I think that it's important to say, if you see Tina Charles and Elena Deladon in, everybody's role starts getting dispersed, and you somewhat start thinking about kind of what we had with the Aces last year, where you go, I really want to play Kayla McBride. She's awesome. But Liz Cambridge's got to get hers. Aja Wilson's got to get hers. And then, you start coming into the McBride plum area. So you almost get like an embarrassment of riches, which if everybody is there for the Mystics, we're going to have. But,
we're going to have that.
But if we start missing people, then you really got to start looking and going, there is a ton of scoring and DFS points out there that somebody's going to fill, especially like you said, like Emma Meeseman, Atkins, like you said, taking off. And then Leilani Mitchell, I can't believe Phoenix let her go. She was a stud at the end of last season. So I hope that she can carry that form to Washington.
Yeah, and one more out I would say, I forgot to mention, is Ariel Powers with the backcourt fan. She's someone that could easily run the point, someone that could play the 2 to 3. I mean, she can fit in wherever. And obviously, you said, if Deladon and Charles are in, that team gets crowded. But, we saw when Deladon this last year that Ariel Powers is someone that would jump in and, take on some of the scoring responsibility, because we know she's not afraid to shoot the ball.
I was going to say.
She's never seen a shot she doesn't like. So if those girls are out, then she'd be another player that could easily step in and be a solid contributor. So that's probably all the ads that I have there.
Yeah. No, I think that we covered the Mystics. Let's go into the Connecticut Sun, who have always been a DFS darling of us. And honestly, this season may even be more. Why don't you go over ads and departures?
Yeah. So who's gone? I mean, they lose 3 starters from last year's team who, a lot of people thought that was maybe a championship team last year. So it's kind of interesting to see them fall apart like that just for this season. But, obviously they lose our favorite player, Jonquel Jones. I mean, someone that, we've loved targeting for years now. And we knew last season, in our preseason, I remember our preseason right up last year, we're like, she's going to have a monster season once, Chiney Gwumake left. And she did. I mean, she led the league in rebounding, was up there in points. So she's gone now for health concerns. She's staying out the season. And then, obviously they lose their number 2 scorer from last season, Courtney Williams, which is another big loss, who's now in the dream, which we'll save that for a little bit. Yeah. Shakina Strickland's in Atlanta now too as well, which, it's not a huge loss from a DFS standpoint. It's whatever. It's kind of a filler role, but, it's another starter they'll have to figure out. Yeah. And they lose Morgan Tuck as well. And she's now with Seattle. So, another side, whatever. But as far as who's in, obviously they lose some big pieces. So they got to add some big pieces, which, they did. They bring in DeWanna Bonner, which is, a huge addition from Phoenix, who's another player that, that we love playing from a DFS standpoint, just one of the solid all-around players. And so, that's going to be an interesting ad for sure. We can talk about that in a second. They also bring in Breon January from Phoenix to kind of assume some of the Courtney Williams ball handling responsibilities. And then they bring in Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis as probably the Shakina Strickland of this year. So
exactly.
Pretty much sit in the corner and take a side chuck, right?
It's the 19 DK off of 6 3-pointers.
That's right. That's pretty much it.
Nothing else.
So she'll fill that role for sure.
So talk to me about early on, how you think it's going to impact DFS top targets.
Yeah, so I think it was 2 seasons. I think it was 3 seasons ago where there were slates that you could easily lock in Jones and Alyssa Thomas together. And I think what you're going to see this season, especially early on, is I think Alyssa Thomas and DeWanna Bonner are going to be extremely playable together, because I think both of them are going to be fantasy studs this year. Just with I'm looking at this bench. We can run through their line. The starting line will probably be Jasmine Thomas, Breon January maybe alongside her, and then Bonner, Alyssa Thomas, and then maybe like Teresa Plaisance at center. But, as far as like who their bench depth is and who else they have, they got no one else. So Bonner, Alyssa Thomas, Jasmine Thomas, those 3, I think are going to be just fantasy studs this year.
Yep.
And all are going to assume big scoring responsibilities. And then you're going to see Bonner and Alyssa Thomas have to cover a lot of the slack on rebounding, running the point sometimes. So making plays happen as well. So I think you're going to see DeWanna Bonner and Alyssa Thomas. And they'll both probably be, I would say, top 10, top 12 fantasy performers by the end of season's end. I think they'll be easily stackable in a lot of different games. So I'm looking forward to playing those 2 for sure.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I'm interested in is how long they're going to take to get DeWanna Bonner only forward eligible. Like, it was always nice to have her as like forward. So one thing we should just go over with WNBA, forwards are the queens, so to speak, especially on FanDuel. Like, so often you would have 4 stud forwards and then kind of punt your guards. FanDuel always seemed to underprice their guards and kind of overprice the forwards, so that's where you would allocate your salary. But DeWanna Bonner's been a guard on both sites for a while. I think both of us here are very much playing the 3 or 4 for Connecticut. So I'm interested to see how long it takes them to catch on. Only person I would just add that I think you did a little bit dirty there. I've always been a Bria Holmes believer. Isn't she still in Connecticut?
She is.
She had some games back in the dream days before. I think she missed a season for being pregnant.
She's got a kid now. She's pregnant. She's got a kid now. So she's got big responsibility. She's got the kid's in the bubble with her. Do you think she's gonna be focused on playing?
Oh my God.
She might be on mommy duty instead of having to be in the game. The kid just sitting in the chair in the bubble is cracking up.
Don't do Bria like that. But yeah, Bria is somebody that's always shown up, at least with some defensive stats, especially on like FanDuel. If we see her like maybe start at the beginning of the year and she's like close to minimum, she can get you a couple steals and a block bet.
Yeah, Holmes, January, Heidemann. I don't know who's going to play that secondary guard role, but I think also something that's going to be interesting is who's going to fill that center role. Because Alyssa Thomas is great, but she can't play center. And really, on the roster, it's Plaisance. She could. Yeah. Just Plaisance, Brianna Jones, and the rookie. I think Montpremier are the only centers on the roster. So I think early on you can find some value. Brianna Jones, she's fine. She's been good when she got minutes. So. Yeah,
they've both shown up, and they gave up some value to get Plaisance, so that must mean that they like her.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. I think that could be a value early on for sure. I think, but I think the big thing, or is to be the big 3 of Thomas and Bonner, and I think early on you'll see me probably tallying where will not be a bad thing just to choose one.
Yeah,
one of them, because usually I think another thing we could touch on WNBA, it's with some of these stud forwards, there's so much production that goes through one of them that it's hard, once you play them in your lineup, it's hard to kind of put someone else on that team in your lineup as well. But I think this will be a situation where you'll be able to play 2 or 3 of these girls together just because of the lack of production around them, and just kind of, I think they're all 3 all-around players. So when, assists, they're feeding off each other and things like that. So definitely the sign is a strong team to target.
And I think really important to know on FanDuel, and then we'll jump on, but both Bonner and Thomas also stuff the sheet on defensive peripherals. And keep in mind, FanDuel, for those that don't play a lot there, but you get 3 points for a steal and a block. So, sometimes we'd see Bonner and Thomas show up with 15 points from defensive peripherals. So I think that would be a big one too.
For sure.
Let's jump over to the power ranked third team in the East, the Chicago Sky. Why don't you talk to me? Doesn't look like a lot changed for them, actually. So why don't you
I think that's a good thing. That's why they're probably ranked so high. I think we were talking about, the teams that, as far as like favorites in the league this year, I think the teams that didn't lose a lot and honestly didn't add too much are going to be the teams that you probably want to favor this year, just with the craziness of the season and so little time to get ready. So, not much change is going to be a good thing. And it's kind of the case with Chicago Sky. As far as who they're missing, looks like Jalen Lavender is really the only play. She's out of the season with surgery. But, in the end, I think we're excited about who that opens up. We'll talk about that in a second. But as far as who they brought in Azrae Stevens, who, she was a good player her rookie year. But obviously last year she had, I think, head issues, or she dealt with something, or she'd ever just not really able. Yeah, she was not able to get it right with the wing. So it'll be a fresh place for her. And honestly, she'll off the bench, I think she could easily find a role on this team. And then they drafted Ruthie Hubbard, eighth pick in the draft. And like we talked about, rookie guards, and especially on a team with very guard heavy, we're not going to be interested in that. So that's pretty much all the offseason news that they have.
So before we go on that, so you think Steven's going to be on the bench?
I do. Okay. I mean, we can get into it. I'll tell you who.
Well, no. Before we get into this, because they lost Indoor, I noticed, and then obviously lost Lavender. So you don't think she slots in?
I think Cheyenne Parker slots in.
Oh, that's a good point.
I think our girl Cheyenne.
No, you're right. Yeah, Cheyenne Parker was a stud. So why don't you go into some players to target, and you can start with Cheyenne Parker.
Yeah, so last year I think when Jantel was out, Cheyenne Parker slotted in, and Cheyenne Parker, has always been better than Dolson. She's always been the best scorer on that roster. They just kind of kept her on the bench, kind of like that 6-man energy out of her. But assuming that with no Lavender, I think this opens up just a ton of minutes for her. And if anything, I could see her eating into Dolson's minutes as well, where Cheyenne Parker really becomes like the premier forward player for them. So I remember how many times last year did we play a $6,000 priced Cheyenne Parker on FanDuel when she was able to slot it, and how many times did she she always consistently smashed when she got the minutes. So that's a play I'm super excited about.
And you might only get to do it. You might only get to do it for like 3 games before her price gets out of control too.
Right. That's the thing. And they know. I would imagine she's priced up a little bit early on, but she'll be a player I'll be targeting. I think honestly, just the no Lavender does secure some minutes for Dolson as well, who's always been a solid prey at her price. So we'll see what that looks like. And I think you have Stevens kind of behind the least to start, but I could easily see her fighting for a starting role at some point. I think the rest of the team looks pretty consistent, similar to last year with Banner, Sloot, Quigley, and Diamond kind of rounding off the starters. And really most of the Skies never really had big bench contributors besides Parker. Most of the contributions come from these starters. And you'll see the Sky are always a favorable team to target just because they play up tempo and against them. But I will say across the board, they've never had one player that really just like stands out as far as fantasy contributions go. You'll see Sloot and Quigley and Diamond all kind of eat into each other to some extent. But I guess as far as this year goes, I think you probably look for DeShields to take really kind of the next big step, just because I think it's her 3rd season now. She'll be the all-star coming forward. She's the go-to scorer. I think you'll look for her to take her big step and look for Sloot and Quigley to get her the ball more this year. So I would say she'll be probably the top player to target for them this year, just from all-around contribution standpoint.
Yeah, and I think it will be interesting. I guess the only point you hit exactly what I was thinking with Diamond DeShields. I think it's the player that potentially could be that plug, but if she gets too expensive, it's going to be like a lot of these guards that we want to play, but they get a little too expensive because we need to spend our money on the forwards. I would just note that from a GPP perspective, Allie Quigley is always a target of mine, because how many years in a row has she won the 3-point contest? Like 3 years in a row?
Something like that.
And then kicked Chris Paul's ass in horse. So
horse, right?
That's the only match I watched.
I started one. I lasted about 10 minutes, and that was it. So.
I think that's the only one I watched. But anyhow, Allie Quigley is the premier shooter in the WNBA. Sorry, Diana Taurasi, you have not beat her in a 3-point competition, so I'm going to give it the Quigs. But somebody, once she gets hot, they're just going to feed her. One of the old WNBA players, her wife, the point guard, is going to feed her the ball when she's hot. So just always don't discount Allie quickly because she can show up with a massive game.
Sure.
Indiana Fever adds departure players to target.
Yeah, relatively like the Sky, the Fever didn't have much going on in the offseason either, which I think is a good thing for them, especially as one of the young teams. This of the teams that struggled the last couple of seasons, I think they'll be the team that probably takes the biggest step this year. I would think. I think they have some directions. So I'd say as far as they lost, but Nigel Laney went to the Dream. Who, she was just a solid defensive wing for them, not too big of a loss. And then Shanice Johnson's gone, which whatever, end of her career really anyway. And then they get Victoria Vivian's back, who missed all last season, who was her rookie season. I mean, she was a good player for them.
Awesome.
Yeah, she started at small forward for them as a rookie. So her back is big. And then they drafted Lauren Cox with the third pick, the draft. She's a forward and she's got a crowded front court to work with. So I don't see her being a contributor at all, really.
So
unless Candace Dupree goes down.
Yeah, let's talk about there's a young team that had some huge DFS pieces at the end of the season. So I'll let you take the full with the giant that is Tierra McCowan.
Yeah, I think I'm excited to talk about her. The backcourt's a lot of messy. We'll get that in a second, but as far as the front, exactly. As far as the front court goes, FanDuel and DraftKings were extremely reluctant to price her up once she moved in the starting lineup last year. So. We were able to play a lot of Tierra McCowan, and I'll go ahead and tout it now. I mean, she's going to be starting day one. I mean, she's the centerpiece of this future, centerpiece of the franchise's future. And could she be the top fantasy scorer this year? There's a decent chance she could be. I think she'll easily be a top 5 player if she can stay out of foul trouble and do that thing. I mean, once she moved into the starting lineup last year, I mean, she led the league in rebounding from when she started throughout the rest of the season. You just watch her play. You just know she's going to contribute as far as just a lob it up to her. She tips it in. It's just very, with her height and her size, there's just really not much you can do about it. She's a giant. So, she's going to be an incredible DFS play, I think, this season. And now, last year she was in that 6,000 to 7,000 range on FanDuel. I mean, this season she should be sitting around the 8,000 range with the rest of the stats because she's going to be nothing short of that.
Lock button, and you still might be hitting lock button.
And she's going to be nothing short of that. And as far as the defensive side too, you pretty much you sign up for 2, 3, 4 blocks every game when you play her. So you get those defensive contributions as well. So I think she's going to be incredible, and hopefully they kind of kick a Chanwa to the curb at some point. They have to realize that this is their center. So I'm excited to have her in my lineups this year.
I like Natalie Akanwa. She's one money like no percentage owned, but I want to make you salivate for a second. Can you picture like the first matchup of Indiana versus New York? Like how is Tierra not going to have like 80?
Exactly. I honestly have no clue. I mean, just going to be. We're talking about the backcourt, but the backcourt's not going to be scoring. They're just going to be lobbing her up a lot of passes. So I don't know, but.
Most of the backcourt will be, except for Kelsey.
Most of the backcourt, right? Most of the backcourt. There you
go. So I do want to just kind of maybe highlight her because I think that I gave you the fun one with Tierra McCowan, but I'll take Kelsey Mitchell as somebody that you really need to watch. So Kelsey Mitchell, I want to say, what was she, like the 3rd leading scorer in college history at Ohio State? She was up there, but she's a true scorer. She's been one of the more tilting players in DFS because she can show up with 40 DK or 40 FanDuel one game and literally 5 DK the next. She's a true shooter. She is not going to be bashful to take shots. The only reason that Tierra McCowan might not drop 70 versus the Liberties because Kelsey Mitchell decides that she wants to try. But I think that, I don't think she's going to hit many of my cash lineups unless we really just see her turn the lineup or turn the page of her career to some consistency. But if you want some pure upside, I think she's huge. And then Erica Wheeler really came on in the last year. She understands that she should be passing into Tierra McCowan. So there's a nice little correlation there between Erica Wheeler and McCowan. Anything else on the Fever that you think to add? I guess maybe we're just kind of canister a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mentioned Kelsey Mitchell. I think I kind of was reluctant to play her after. I think she was on the first slate last season.
Yeah.
Where I put all that money on the first slate. I was like, all right, Kelsey Mitchell, I'm building around her, and she died it because that's kind of just the GP play she is. So you kind of sign up for that when you play her. And yeah, as far as Candace Dupree, I mean, she's on the end of her career. She's still going. She'll be in the starting lineup probably as the power forward to start the season. But I think they might figure out ways to probably get Natalie Achanwa in that power forward spot alongside McCowan just to give her some minutes. So, I mean, I think Dupree, she's always an okay cash play when her price drops low enough, but I think all the focus will be on McCowan this year. And then, of course, you have, Tiffany Mitchell, another player that's still there who her and Vivian's might eat into the Wheeler, Kelsey Mitchell kind of. So that's going to be interesting in the backcourt what that looks like because you're going to see, their prices might drop to the point where they're worth playing, but you'll probably see 4 players probably pricing that 4.5 to 5.5 price on FanDuel, which will all make him decent plays, but never, elite like cash plays. And so I think really the focus is on McCown, and that's our consensus.
I think that like 4,800 tag, I feel like I always remember being like the temptation zone on FanDuel where you're just like,
I know it's like you sit there all day like, holy cow, can they give me 20 fantasy points? So that's
or it's Shakina Strickland. Like, think I was showing what to worry about in Connecticut, but she said at 4,000, she's like, was she starting? And then you fade her and she drops 30.
That's why I got better to play like Sophie Cunningham at like 3.2 at the end of the season. You felt better playing like just min price plays by the end of the season before the 4,500 plays.
This is the construction that really is going to separate them. So make sure that you join because we have lots of years of doing this. So let's talk about the Atlanta Dream, which I think almost more than any team in the East had the most turnover. So why don't you talk to me if you can even keep track of who they added and departed?
Really more than any team in the league. And, we were laughing about, I remember, especially the Dream you were talking about a second ago. I was thinking about the Dream, Bentley, Montgomery, Sykes, Sway. Okay, which of these $4,000, $5,000 guards do I take a chance on? How many times did we play Renee Montgomery or take Alex Bentley? Because, on that team last year. And, the good thing is we don't have to worry about that anymore for the Dream.
But okay, let's say this about Renee Montgomery. We got her this
we got her.
I don't remember.
We got her right.
So we got her 50 burger right, and I think
it was 2 seasons ago at 4%.
Oh, last season 4%. We got one. No, because
we may have got one last season too. We had 40 last season against the Sky, and we got her for 45 or 50 2 seasons ago.
Yeah, man, we've done okay 4%. With Renee.
So, I mean, I will say sometimes it's worth it. It pays off sometimes. So that's right.
So let's talk about.
I've lost a lot. I'm
gone.
Yeah, I will say that I've lost a lot of sleep over. I don't know if it was. We had a couple big wins. I think it was worth it, but I've still lost a lot of sleep over some of those girls. So goodness gracious. But so Monty's gone, Montgomery's gone, Tiffany Hayes is gone, Brittany Sykes is gone, Alex Bentley is gone, Angel McCautry's gone, and Jessica Berdulin's gone. So
that's it.
I mean, they are pretty much starting. That's it. Yeah, no big deal. I mean, they are pretty much starting off with just a clean slate, and which makes sense. They had the worst record in the league last year, and to be honest, like I thought they should have had a better record. They did. Like they honestly were not a bad team per se. They just did not work well together. So they pretty much house and made some big changes in the off seasons. As far as who they brought in, definitely did not bring in quite the talent that they lost, which is interesting. But the big ad is Courtney Williams from the Connecticut Sun, and we'll talk about her in a second. Yeah, I think we're excited about that one for sure. Also bringing Glory Johnson, Shakina Strickland, Benijah Laney, Kalani Brown from the Sparks, Alexis Jones from the Sparks, and they draft Kennedy Carter, 4th pick guard from I think Texas A&M maybe, but she honestly is in a spot where she can contribute with the amount of guards they lost. So that's kind of the offseason news for them.
So why don't you talk to me about why it is truly going to be # Courtney season this year?
Yeah, I think we talk about not wanting to pay up for guards, but I think she could be there's gonna be one. I think she could be the exception, just as far as just pure use. With the Connecticut Sun, I mean, Courtney, I'm looking at her right now. She averaged 13, 6, and 4 in the regular season last year, and she did not have a great regular season. And as with players like Jonquil Jones, Alyssa Thomas, Jasmine Thomas, I mean, it was a very capable starting 5 that she played with last year. And, she was still able to be a pretty, 25, 30 fantasy point contributor. And now you've pretty much dropped her into a dream situation.
Which you did there.
Sorry, on the fly, yeah. In Atlanta. So she's going to be, she's in an incredible spot because she's an all-around contributor. Like you watch her play, like, you love the watching her play, chasing after rebounds, getting in, steals, blocks. Like she literally stuffs the stat sheet in every single category. And then on top of that, she's probably the best mid-range scoring guard in the league for sure. So, you drop her into this situation where she steps in day one as, the de facto go-to option for this team. And so I think, we were talking about it before this. You're going to see her 20, 21 points, 6, 7 rebounds, 6, 7 assists, a couple steals and blocks a game. And so I think she could easily be priced, up at the 7.5, 8,000 range on FanDuel by the end of the season. And assuming she's probably a little bit cheaper to start that at the beginning of the season, I think she's going to be a player that we target very heavily at the beginning just because of this sheer usage and workload she's going to get. So I'm super excited for her.
Yeah, I like look up and on the lineup, and I'm like, who's going to create shots or who's even going to do anything? And it all is going to be Courtney Williams.
Oh yeah, it's going to be crazy. I mean, like I'm looking at the team. I mean, she was able to be a really solid contributor last year on that Connecticut Sun team. And this team, I mean, we can be honest, this Lion James team is very bad. And so she's going to have all the opportunity that she wants. And so, and especially with not many weeks in training camp and a short season and stuff, there's not going to be a lot of drawn up for everyone else. So I think they're just going to give the ball to their best player and let her figure it out. And that's what's going to happen, I'd imagine. So
yeah, and I do think the other part I do want to mention, we're not too far removed from Glory Johnson having some, and now I got to pull what you did, some glorious games. But jokes aside, like Glory Johnson can put up some big games scoring wise too. So I think that
she was in my big GPP win last year. Yeah, we had Glory Johnson that game. I think. I mean, she's definitely capable. I think last year it's frustrating with Agler, in the minutes and the wings, but I think she'll be a ton of minutes right off the bat for the Dream. As far as who else I see contributing, I think Monique Billings now with Breland gone is going to be an interesting play because she's kind of like a poor man's Erica Hamby, just kind of the undersized power forward that kind of gets it done on both ends, just kind of hustle, rebound, like really good at rebounding, boxing out, being in good position, that kind of thing. And so she's also a very capable scorer. So I think she'll be in an interesting position. Elizabeth Williams is always an undersized center who, she'll always pop for probably, 50 points with like 4 or 5 blocks and steals every once in a while, but she's not really a player that we like to target. And I will say this, I think with Kalani Brown now being on the bench behind Kalani capable, I think especially big centers this season. So that'll be interesting to watch. As far as the rest of the Dream goes, I don't really know what the rest of the backcourt looks like. I mean, Alexis Jones is there. I mean, I'm trying to look. Goodness gracious, I don't know who that is.
Don't.
Delaney's there. Shania Strickland. They're gonna have a bunch of just a very meh backcourt and assortment of wings in general. So I think you really could see Trinity Carter, who was their 4th pick, actually place, if not start, play some very solid minutes off the bat. So it'll be interesting to see how they do there. But to be very frank, this team is just not going to be good. And this will be Courtney Williams' team. So even if they're down by 20, Courtney Williams could be able to pay off that price on FanDuel DraftKings. So it's
she might get there. She might get there in the first half a lot of times.
Yeah, she might.
So speaking of bad teams, we're going to wrap up the Eastern Conference preview with the New York Liberty, who I don't know what they're doing, but why don't you talk to me about not only who they lost, but who they actually have left?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, a lot of these teams are there's 3 or 4 teams in the league right now that are just stuck in this rebuilding mode, which I think rebuilding is a good thing, but totally clearing out house, I don't know. Just to preface that the New York Liberty have 7 rookies on their roster, which we talked about what we think about rookies. So you tell me how that's going to go this season. They get rid of Tina Charles. They pretty much, they sign away the next couple of years to try to, I guess, plan for the future. So they get rid of their best player. Tina Charles we talked about her, waiting to hear if she'll be playing for the Mystics this year. She's been a premier player in the league for years. And even last year, she was a very capable fantasy stud for us. And we played her quite a few times, even on a really bad New York Liberty roster. Maybe more than we should have. Yeah, we should have pulled the plug earlier on in the season before they started tanking with her. But so she's gone now. Bria Hartley's gone. Brittany Boyd. Asia Durr's missing this season. Tanisha Wright, Rebecca Allen, Rashonda Gray, Maureen Johannes. I mean, everyone from last year is pretty much gone except for, I got to look at it, but I think it's Nurse and Zowie B. And then they get Kia Stokes back from overseas, and
we'll be fine. And then they added Clarendon.
That's it. And they added Alicia Clarendon for emotional veteran support. So that's pretty much.
Clarendon had an all
years ago. Yeah, now that you say that, she could be starting for this team, but man. And then, of course, everything for the New York Liberty was built in the draft this year. And, all the buzz will be around Ionescu, the number 1 pick. And I think she could be, we talked about not really wanting to favor rookies. in DFS. I mean, she's probably going to be one of the few exceptions this year, just because she'll start as the point guard. I would assume most of the ball handling, playmaking role just right off the bat because they put so much into her. So she'll be she'll be playable, I think, early on in DFS. We can talk about that in a second. They had Megan Walker, Jasmine Jones in the first round, for the rookies. And, at this point, it's just like, I don't know what this team's going to look like. And side plug, the New York Liberty over-under win total is at 10 right now, I think, on Bovada and certain sites, which out of 22 games, I mean, I don't know if we'll get a fifth of that. So I'm going to go ahead and say that if you like that, the WNBA future bets, like, there's your plug for me.
Yeah.
Go hammer that. So
Will, we're gonna have a problem with your tuition if they win over 10. Are you gonna be able to afford school?
My parents are pulling me out. If that's the case, we're in trouble. If that's the case, but I feel pretty good about that one.
I don't see how they win 5, man.
Anyhow, tell me how they get that 10.
Let's talk about just a couple DFS targets. So you talked about the first pick. There's 2 others that stand out to me. Why don't you talk to them about them?
On this team, yeah. So we talked about the first pick, obviously. To me, the other 2 picks, I think we're on the same page. Are Kia Nurse and Amanda Zawi. That's, I think but you play what you know early on, and so we're gonna play what we know. Kia Nurse, honestly, I thought she'd have a bigger season last year, but I think with Tina Charles gone, now no Asia Durr, no Bria Hartley, some of those girls that would take some more minutes and just shots. Honestly, this will be a good spot for her. For sure, a team that might be out by 20 every night, but she's going to get her shots. And she's going to have definitely the opportunity to produce Kia Nurse, that is. And so I think you look for her to be, honestly, a very solid cash play. I think she was more GPP last couple seasons in her career, but I think this year she'll have more of a floor this year just because she's going to be relied on. I mean, she could easily be the number 1 scorer, the go-to option for this team. And if it's not her, it's going to be Amanda Zawi probably, who, we honestly played quite a bit last year, even with Tina Charles. She started alongside her some. Came off the bench behind her, but still was a very, solid contributor. I think that one night she had 45 or 50 fantasy points in LA against the Sparks. I mean, she went off, and she's a very capable player. And so now you clear kind of the way, get rid of Tina Charles, Rashonda Gray. Amanda Zawi is probably going to be she might play more minutes than anyone. I mean, her and Nurse probably the most minutes of anyone on this team. So she's going to be early on. I can't imagine her, but she's priced up too much. Right. I would think by the end of the season she will be. So we'll definitely take advantage of that early. But yeah, I mean, I think she's going to be a very, very, very solid fantasy play for us early on in the season, just because of the, just a great, honestly, just a very good scorer, great rebounder. And we talk about how we like bigs, we like centers, 4th in the WNBA, and so she's the best forward on her team. So why not like her, especially at a reduced tag early on. So
yeah, especially in matchups too that we don't see a ton of people that can get. It's always been with her just getting her in foul trouble too. So if we can maybe see a matchup that she's not going against some other dominant big, that could work. I also just want to throw just a plug early on. I bet you'll be stone minimum as Kia Stokes, you mentioned.
Yeah.
Kia Stokes, great rebounder. Also, a lot of shot blocking ability for her. So especially on FanDuel, if we see her like sub 4K, she might make that 3-stud forward, 1-stud guard build that we love to do fit. So that's somebody I'm going to be interested to look at.
You remember Kia Stokes, right? 2 summers ago. That was our big night. We won that GPP, took that down. We get the late news that she was starting, plugged her in for a good 20, 25 fantasy points at mid price, and you roll with that. And that's honestly, for those of you that don't really know, what WNBA DFS is like, there's not a lot of news circulating out there. So, that late news that breaks 5-10 minutes before lineups, things like that really can make all the difference and, change, the slate, change the way that we're playing. So, being in the Discord chat where we're sending out the news, keeping you guys updated is just a massive, massive, massive advantage. And, that's a lot of WNBA, just being flexible, being able to change, and then, making the right calls based off of that. And, that's what we're here to help you do. So,
and sometimes noticing too, like I'm trying to think of the one that sticks out to me that we both fell for, but we've learned was, I think it was like 2 summers ago, Park for Vegas started.
Park, of course. Yeah.
And we're like, oh my God, 3K, we can fit in everybody. And she subs out after a minute and never sees the floor again. So
exactly.
Also, we've done this long enough to steer you away from the bait. So
right, we've learned her and Indow sometime Indu, some of those plays.
she
Carolyn
was good
Sword.
against the year though.
She was good last year. 2 years ago, she was not. But yeah,
No.
I think we've seen it long enough now where we know some of the plays. There's some last minute plays that people flock to that we're like, oh gosh, just stay away. That's a trap. But that's for us to decide, and we pay with that. We pay with the consequences if we get it wrong. So we'll take that for you. That's right.
And on that note, I think we've wrapped up the East. So make sure that you tune in for a Western Conference preview. Should be up in a few days. But yeah, please make sure to join up this season. Again, there'll be the options there, but it's going to be a great year. Will, thanks so much for the breakdown, and I'll talk with you soon. All right.
Hey, thanks, Keith. Appreciate it.
Take it easy.